Well, do we need a new GitHub? Is it going away? Other alternatives? Why people are leaving? Today, we are looking for the code forgers for agents. Together with me, Andrey, Fernando, and Vladimir. It is Agentic AI for DevOps episode 15, recorded on July 17th. Here we are. You're probably living under the rock if you haven't seen all of those reports of GitHub being down or having issues and all of those things. And personally, I don't feel that it's kind of a new story that is having issues. So it's been somewhat constant theme through the years. Like I do remember Vladimir saying
exactly.
that his client was complaining.
We had that problem because GitHub usually was down during our peak work hours, basically just to hit people so hard. And it was so annoying. Some people are even considerate. What if you move to GitHub Enterprise just to host it? Self-hosting GitHub Enterprise, because it was more self-hosted. Maybe our team, can do better when GitHub himself, in terms of SLA and so on. But yeah.
And that was before all the agentic AI thing happened.
Yep.
Yeah. I also had the same experience 2 years ago. Constantly this kind of stuff would happen, right? Especially with the GitHub Actions, like just dying, and then you cannot run the checks on pull requests, and then that's it. Everyone is like blocked, right? So
somehow I don't have an experience of GitHub being down all the time, comparing how people describe it. Like you're having issues, but
I have
maybe
a guess.
Maybe I'm working in the wrong time.
Yeah, I think this is the thing, because maybe they do the whole risky operation when it's a night time for US, and then the issues happen. So just by theory, because it's why it hit my customer so hard, because it's right in the morning for you.
So there was that. Then the volume of the everything happened on GitHub more or less 30x in 2025, 2026. So that's another thing that kind of contributed to the capacity. And we should give a credit to GitHub for not falling over. I mean, if you're getting hit by 30x of your normal operational volume, and it's sustained 30x, and you're still able to maintain operations without, being down all the time, which some people say they are. I probably would disagree, but they still managed to maintain at least 9.9, right? And I'm not really sure how many nines after the dot there is. Maybe 98% availability, but still pretty good for the website, generally speaking, with such load. And
there's all complexity. GitHub is not just a website; it's a whole API behind that, and the many functions.
Yes.
And so on.
Yeah, and the infrastructure for the agents, right, for the runners and all of that. And now, as you were mentioning about these percentages, right, it just crossed my mind how it is with Anthropic. You see how many times if you go to their status page, the red thing is insane, man. So.
Yes.
It's interesting, right? Everyone throwing the stones at GitHub, but it's, as you said, I think they managed still to handle that huge load. And I saw even yesterday as a thing popped in my mind, someone that is a marketeer, I think, and she took a screenshot of her GitHub profile, put it on LinkedIn and say, hey, if you're a marketeer without a GitHub profile today, you're being left behind because, all the things that people are creating with the coding agents. So you even have a different category of people, right, that are now on the platform as well, not just agents, but people that before wouldn't write any code.
I actually, in my last presentation in Bangkok on the AWS Summit, I compared GitHub to Instagram. because
Yeah,
you
kind
know
of.
Now
Fatigue
it's
is,
technically
yeah.
likes are a stars repository. It's your picture. So
right.
by
It's an
which point?
interesting analogy indeed, right? It feels like social media now to a certain
Yes,
extent. Yeah.
exactly. It's even have a feed. You know, GitHub have a feed and news. If you want to scroll
Yeah.
something, you could scroll
Yeah,
GitHub.
yeah. And thing is that, they managed not only sustain 30x load, but also do that while being owned by Microsoft and doing that on Azure, which people don't give them enough credit for.
Because we
True
can
story.
explain maybe a bit. And Azure things are it's a bit more velocity in the changes, how APIs changes, what things are available in that type of API, another type of API. So I know it's challenging for our team to keep up with all of this way of working and so on.
While you're also spending good time of your day on the meetings, like being in an enterprise. Anyhow,
Yeah.
but also talking about enterprise, what enterprises do? They do reorgs, and a lot of people online actually attributing the GitHub struggles or perceived struggles to the Microsoft reorganization, where the GitHub, from being they stopped being the independent business unit, and they were folded under the CoreAI organizational unit with a focus of AI everywhere, like AI all the things. So that's why you trying to select actions tab and continuously clicking agents, which basically appeared at the place where the actions button was. That's why. So AI, all the things. And they trying to do GitHub, I guess, AI native first, maybe, but like when you do that through the big corporation for the established product with a bunch of legacy, plus there is a lot of talk about how GitHub was neglected and there are like not enough features. I mean, like you've been using GitHub. I mean, like the UI and the functionalities didn't change over years that much. I mean, like the huge change was where they allowed you to rebase and squash. That was like the huge change.
And then I think for a long time was quite stable, right? Was the default Git stuff and then the flow, and then GitHub Actions came finally when people were like, oh my God, these guys don't have is still like a pipeline feature, which Bitbucket had.
And
GitLab was built
GitLab
around
was
that,
really
right?
pushing them.
Yeah, so it was quite a thing. And I think after that, indeed, you would feel like there wasn't much new happening. And then the whole AI thing came like crazy with the GitHub Copilot, and then building the AI features into the product, which is a lot more intrusive and can cause a lot of these downtimes, right? So it could be, I wonder as well if it's not because of that, like how fast things like if there's AI everywhere, it's most likely AI also in the product, right? Development of the product. And then you see a lot of this fix forward mentality now, right? Reading around also like influence from Anthropic, the guys who created Cloud Code. There's a lot of these, like you just fix forward, it breaks, we fix it, and you keep moving forward. That's why there's all this. So it could be instability in that sense as well, not just for load, right? I don't know if you guys saw something around that as well, right? But just wondering.
And well, yes and no. But the reason why we're discussing this topic today is, I mean, still GitHub was a staple, and you didn't really had a good reason to go anywhere. You still could code GitLab, maybe. There are like Bitbucket and other strange options available, but technically, first of all, you didn't had a big reason to go anywhere. But now maybe you do, because like maybe GitHub is not moving fast enough to address the demand. Well, there is, and then you can also argue if there is a demand, because again, agentic AI, everything. So maybe some people argue that we might need to have the GitHub for AI agents, if you will. And to address that, so there is an offering from Cursor, which called Origin, I believe that's the name, and the former GitHub CEO also announced a new offering called Entire, which is, you would be surprised, but it's a distributed Git, which was always distributed. But you just happen to centralize everything on a GitHub. So his proposition saying that we're going to create a mirror of the GitHub around the world. So you can mirror your GitHub repository to them, to their network.
And this network, you know how this mirrored network of files is called?
Well, it's called Entire.
No, I mean like it's the torrent ecosystem where you kind of mirroring things around.
Yeah, so
just pop up in my mind. Just pop up.
Yeah, mirroring is only only a part of it. So the mirroring is because they say yes, things will be on GitHub because people don't have a strong reason to leave. So like there will be a lot of inertia. People will be still on GitHub, and they don't have all the features around it. So like the Git itself have not changed much, right? But GitHub built features around it, like CI, like that we'll be bringing up all the time. I think being most useful out of them. But then you have issues, you have discussions, identity, well, a lot of stuff. So they're bootstrapping that entire thing. They're bootstrapping it, and obviously people will not move their stuff. So they say like you're going to be mirroring it, and you can then clone and do the branching and everything from our mirror, and they promise you a higher throughput. And I don't know if you need that. Like, I mean, like generally like at least in my experience, which is very unrepresentative because again, like you notice that I'm not bashing GitHub for being down all the time. I mean, like the speed of branching and cloning, I don't feel that it's like a problem for me today.
In a GitHub, there's a very tough limits inside API. It's only 5 or 15,000 requests per hour, which is per hour. And in a human-like speed, yes, I can branch, I can review, I can add comments in that speed as a human. But if you multiplex myself by 30 or 50, I'm already hitting these limits with my CI/CD pipeline, who is hammering GitHub API automatically.
Okay.
I find a way how to manage it, but with agents, it's going to be 10x or basically with 30x. Where is go? So and but GitHub have to protect themselves obviously because of if you not protect the API, it's going to be much more downtime.
It will be like a Twitter in the big early days of Twitter. Yeah, actually, you're making a good point because I do have a couple of CI jobs that just check all of the repositories and, like check that, like how it's configured, for instance. If you ever manage GitHub organization via Terraform, so that thing will gonna fire a lot of requests against GitHub. So then, but this is GitHub API. So like you're actually checking how GitHub is configured. That's not the Git clone and Git branch, which are like the native Git operations.
It's it depends how we do them, but it's maybe a new way of thinking, new way of doing. It's at the moment how we have to do. We have to clone the repo locally and then perform committing, rebasing, or whatever we need to do locally on the file system. Because it's because it's not possible in the API, we have to pull things and then change. But if a new way of Git allow me to do all of these things without pulling the whole code base locally, and we just commit there, change that tiny line.
My understanding is that like the whole entire value add is that everything going to be faster.
They just remove the rate limiting. That's it. Just drop the rate limits.
Well, I guess it's like also they're gonna have some open source backend, so you can self-host the nodes. So even if like the central thing goes down, you can still do your thing. I don't know. I guess
Mm.
it's fine. I haven't looked into what Cursor is offering because it's allow listed, so you have to wait.
Yeah, but there's some kind of news or blog post what is behind the origin, and at least the promising. The promise is to have like as 22 kind of commit per second per repo. 22 per second commits, which obviously current GitHub API not allow you to do this. So, but do we need commit to the repo, the remote
like
repo,
remotely.
basically?
I mean, like you can commit locally much faster.
But yeah, maybe it's for better collaboration between the agents, maybe. But it's basically move all the local thing inside to another site and then commit there, and maybe it's faster. But I don't know. It's questionable. Do we really need it?
Yeah, I wonder indeed, like if the pain is indeed on this is on the Git operations, because also if you think like if you start shoveling thousands of commits into a branch, or it loses its meaning, right? At a certain point, the idea of the Git history was for you to understand how the thing evolved over time and all of that. Of course, as humans looking at it, so there is also that factor now. But I, at least in my experience, when I would have issues with GitHub, is not really about the speed of the Git operations, but was what they built around exactly, right? Their APIs doing rate limiting, or their agents on the CI/CD on the GitHub Actions not working, but not on the core of how Git works. So I wonder, like, for the people who are really struggling with it, like, is it because of Git itself, or indeed is the stuff around it?
Maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe we missed something.
No, but
Yeah, and
communication in general, to communicate inside the issue, it's designed for humans. It's not designed for agents. If the agent want to make a comment about the code line, it's create kind of a bit of a friction because you have to pull all the information, find where comment it was to which line. But it's not related to Git. It's related to, as Fernando says, to around things.
Yeah, and like also, like for instance, yeah, you can branch quickly, fine. I mean, like if you're running a lot of agents, but then usually what you also do, you would do CI/CD. So the branching takes a millisecond or a second, but your unit test takes much longer. So even if you can, rapid fire a commit, you still need to process them somehow, and then finally all of that stuff you can automate, you could potentially automate and distribute. Fine, we could do that. Still, like unclear how wise is this, because if you remember Agile Manifesto, there was a line of the art of reducing the work, and like doing less is a good thing. Here we're saying about doing more. Reminds me this meme that now with coffee I can do much more stupid stuff faster. Because Elsa, like, okay, we can fine, we can automate everything. There is still a question if we should be automating a lot of distributed operations that potentially run on the code that we're gonna throw away. But still, like, there is the human factor in that, at least in 2026, with all those humans doing the reviews, who's supposed to do a review. And if you read the book called The Goal, about it was like a fable about the guy who was a factory manager who like turned around the factory by optimizing the flow of the inventory through the factory. There he realized that you're optimizing by optimizing the slowest element in the chain. So that will drag down the whole production chain. It's the slowest element. You need to optimize that. And at least for me, I don't feel that the Git is being the slowest element on the chain. Like if anything, like you should be looking at removing humans from the book. That's kind of will unlock the unlock the velocity needed.
yeah, it's the theory of constraints, right? Indeed, like finding the bottleneck there. and just fixing that one, right? And then you move to the next one. I think like in my experience, the challenge with the thing with GitHub, which I think might be the whole thing, I don't know. For me, it's not about the speed indeed, but it's like the dependency, right? When like back 2 years ago, when we would be working as a team and GitHub is down, you just cannot do the work because now you're not able to deploy the fix. Like if you have a production issue and GitHub is down for whatever thing they did there, then that's it. Like I don't have now credentials to be able to do the deployment in a compliant way, right? And I think that dependency is where people are now a bit scared. That is like, hey, we need to move fast, and now this thing is not as reliable as it in theory was before.
That's a good argument. So bring Artifactory back. Dust off Artifactory and Nexus and bring
I
them back.
remember the old days with those things like, oh man, Jenkins, let's run Jenkins again and all
Jenkins,
the...
of course, yeah.
People totally do Artifactory nowadays. I mean, like, I spoke to some people doing Artifactory just recently.
Yeah. Oh man, I haven't seen that since 2019, I think. So,
but if you're back to this agent and a Git operations, maybe what at least I'm not think about in the past, it's maybe the scale itself. If like it's we scale it to incredible amount of agents, like I don't know, 100,000 of agent clone the GitHub repo in the same time, 100,000. If it's a big monorepo of one big company, where a big enterprise put everything in one repo, call it monorepo, and when now we're spanning 100,000 of agents, and all of them need to clone repo in the same time, when maybe the problem will appear, maybe the scale.
So we usually should run Artifactory.
Thank you. Yeah, but I think all of us maybe mostly go in a multiple repos approach, but if it's a monorepo, if it's one single repository, and after this problem become the problem, and you need to rebase, constantly rebasing things, is going to be complete mess if the 1,000 agents go there.
I don't know if you guys saw, I saw it today. I think the guy who created Cloud Code, like he shared this thing on 4 levels of using AI. I don't know if you guys saw this, like, and he's saying like, hey, okay, level 1 basically is like a pair programming thing. Level 2, you're coordinating about 10 agents yourself. Level 3, there's like about 100 agents. And then level 4 is like 1,000 plus, which reminded me of this. At that scale, then indeed, right now you have like you're hammering your infrastructure with a lot of Git operations at the same time. Then yes, but I think like as he says it himself as an example of someone who is really pushing for this, right? He says, I'm level 3 as a person, and we are trying to push Anthropic as a whole thing towards that direction, right? So even like a frontier lab is not at the level of thousands of agents. So you could think that most people complaining about GitHub are also not there, right? So I'm not sure then again, like, is it about the reliability on the sense of like, is this fast enough? Or is just like this blocks me even?
An update on this. So we spoke with Viktor Menvich in episode 13, where he went in quite a length about CMUX. And then episode 14, the previous one, we spoke about engine loops. I basically put those two together. I took all the Victor's advice on how you could use the CMUX stubs. So basically, you can span the agents in a CMUX stubs, and then the orchestrator could, through the CMUX API, can look what they're doing there and like observe them. So basically, CMUX gives you a framework for the agent orchestration in a form of terminal. And like, for instance, when Cloud Code launches the sub-agents, you cannot really see what sub-agents are doing. Here, since it keeps opening up and closing the tabs, you can actually look what's going on there. And I also got myself a bigger subscription for Codex. So I did have that engine, the loop running for like 12 hours, 13 hours, and so on. So yeah, it's possible, totally. But still, the bottleneck there was that the model would just run in some issue or like and start going the loops. Like, yeah, I failed to solve it. Let's start a new iteration. that iteration also failed. Let's try a new approach. And like, you really have to spend time on a scoping, saying like, look at the small bite pieces so you can actually do that. Don't try to eat the whole elephant at the whole in one go. But yeah, but still, like most of that stuff going on locally. And if what the next step I could do, I can obviously parallelize that. So instead of doing one attempt at a time, I can ask a planner to span 3 or 4 agents approaching the problem in a different direction, and then choose the best, like what's succeeding. But then I don't really know what kind of subscription you need to have as an individual or a company. And those are like, those 5x, 20x personal subscriptions that you cannot get with your enterprise subscription, which means that the company would be, like if the company would pay for that, they would probably be paying the API rates, which would be quite expensive.
It's gonna be like 5 to 7,000 per month per developer who is doing that way. It's possible to estimate, but this is best of 5 or best of 3 approach. I think it was kind of famous before the 4.7 or 4.6 models, because this generation are able to do it themselves under the hood and spend multiple versions. And plus, it's still a problem of choice, how to choose which of these 5 options are the best. So you have to describe it as well. So you have to but if you can describe the best solution in advance, so probably you can just do it without spending 5 of them. But people do this. Maybe with different models, 5 different models, the same problem, see what's happened. But yeah, quite expensive.
Yeah, expensive is a lot of wasted effort in tokens and things, right? So I haven't tried these like long, super autonomous runs yet. I think you did, right, Vlad? Like,
yeah, I do.
Because I always feel like the quality at the end is gonna be very meh, because there is no, the model is gonna make decisions like and go a bit with it. Maybe I don't know, with Fable 5 is different, or like this new the GPTs, the new ones, Soul, Luna, and the
I
stuff.
don't know why people running around with ChatGPT. I mean, like this Codex 5x model.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's like
not even close to Fable, at least in my testing.
Yeah, so because this, unless the problem is very narrow, my feeling is like if you give it something too big to chew, then is indeed like, then you need to say, hey, spin up 10 different agents. All of the 10 are trying to solve the same problem. So you try to pick the one that solves it best. Man, the amount of wasted tokens on this, it's insane. Like, and why is the big rush, right? Like, why do we're all trying to do this? I don't know. Like, for me, it's still a bit of a resistance to go all the way in that way, like completely hands off.
Yeah,
More for the quality, right? But
it's probably possible if it's different loops and you can give different reasons or different goals for office spanning agents. If one approach is shortest and easiest possible solution, another one check it for security after that. So if they focus on a different goals, maybe spanning more of them, it makes sense because they able to find a consensus after. But it's I don't know. I'm not that scale. I guess initially we talk about the Git operations. I'm not in that scale, but potentially maybe some other companies they just struggling with pulling repos on the machine, like as a cloning operation. So it's kind of take time because if you spin a new agent, you have to clone the fresh repo, and depends how many you. But I think the bottleneck for me it's an internet connection. To be honest, it's not the operation of a kid. It's how fast I can pull it to my machine.
So, like if you're getting mirrors and like if it's distributed mirrors, and it's getting things better. So the one argument is like, yeah, the cloning. If you have a bad internet connection and you're pulling from the local mirror, probably will be better comparing pulling from US. People not vendoring dependencies because not every language even supports that. which means you're dependent on downloading dependencies, and if it's going slow, then all your build processes are slowing down. So that was the argument that Fernando made. So yeah, like the cloning and getting that faster for the builds, I think makes sense. Being independent in terms of like, yeah, you can have the mirror to switch from and then have your dependencies available makes sense.
Actually what? It's a mirror is look like a solution. If I can have a local mirror from the GitHub, basically after I don't care if GitHub is down, if GitHub is far, and I spin up how many agent I want to, 1,000 agents, and they talk to local mirror. And as soon as work complete, I just upload it.
Yeah, this is what like the proposition of Entire is they will synchronize your work to the GitHub, but you can work with a local mirror. Plus, you also have all the geopolitical tensions, so people might want like sovereignty, geopolitical tensions, so people might want to have something closer to home or like run the node, like if the entire network would allow it. So distributing Git, I think that makes sense. So not for agentic reasons per se, really, but I guess that's just a push that gives them a momentum right now. They're going to be riding the hype wave. But that's a trend to look for. And there is also in the news that GitLab is redoing GitLab completely for the agentic AI, and there is quite a bit of pushback going on Hacker News and Reddit on that. So maybe that's not what they should be doing at all. But time will show, I would say. For now, since we are like a weekly show, our job is to bring the stuff to your attention, keep you up to date, and give a little bit of commentary how we see that. And right now, I think it's too early to judge where all that AI Forge is going and like if it makes sense. Some of the aspects, well, like not AI Forge per se, but making Git distributed again, starts, I think, makes sense. And there are like good arguments for that. Any last words, boys?
Yeah, no, I think that's it indeed. Like, I think the only thing left then is if you depend on other things besides the Git part, that then is what is there remaining, right? Like GitHub Actions as a clear example.
Yes.
But other than that, yeah, I think it's the mirroring makes sense.
If you already dust off the Artifactory, Jenkins is the next step.
Leave it there already like a dormant, so then when you need it, you can just spin it up.
Yeah, like put the Jenkins jar file to your Artifactory together with all the plugins you use.
Oh man, good old times, or maybe not so good.
It looks like the time goes as a pendulum. We swing from one side to another. Like we went SaaS all the way. Now we're swinging back to the self-hosting of some kind.
True.
Oh well, let's leave it at here, and we see each other next week. Yeah. Thank you for tuning up.
Thank you for listening. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.